Helen Keller, The World at Her Fingertips by Sarah Albee. Pictures by Gustavo Mazzali. This is Helen Keller, and the caption says, Helen Keller's courage and joy for life still inspire us. And this is her quote. It says, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen, nor even touched, but just felt in the heart." This is her reading with Braille, so Helen could read. And Braille is a way of printing for blind people. The raised dots represent letters of the alphabet. A blind person can read with her fingers. The system was invented in 1824 by a man named Louis Braille, who had been blind since the age of 3. So this is a picture of Helen Keller. It says that although Helen Keller could not see or hear, she had an excellent sense of smell, taste, and touch. Helen couldn't hear what people were saying, but she could understand their words. Helen Keller could read a person's lip by putting her fingers on their lips and her thumb on their throat. She felt their lips move and their voice vibrate. Helen Keller. Helen Keller could not see. She could not hear. She could hardly speak, but she learned to read and write. She loved to swim and ride bikes. Helen traveled all over the world. She met 12 U.S. presidents. She spent her life helping others. How did she do it? Helen had been born healthy. At 6 months, the happy baby could even say a few words. But when Helen was not yet 2, she was not 2 yet, she got very sick with high fever. Baby Helen recovered at last. But then her parents realized she could no longer see or hear. Helen's world became dark and silent. Little Helen could no longer speak because she could not hear. She forgot all her words. She grew incredibly frustrated. She was very, very upset. Helen screamed and kicked and hit. Many people told her parents that Helen would never learn. They said Helen should be sent away. Helen's parents refused. They're not going to send their own daughters away, right? Let's see what will happen. Helen's parents wrote to a school for blind people to ask for help. The school sent a young woman to their house to teach Helen. Her name was Anne Sullivan. Helen was nearly 7 years old. Anne was only 20. She came from a poor family. She had very bad eyesight herself. Can you find Helen? Anne tried to teach Helen to understand words and language. Anne handed Helen a doll. With her fingers, Anne spelled D-O-L-L in Helen's open hand. Helen did not understand. Anne kept trying, and then one day it worked. Anne pumped water over Helen's hand and spelled out water, W-A-T-E-R. In a flash, Helen understood. Helen realized that Anne's fingers spelled words that named things. She zoomed from object to object. That day she learned father, F-A-T-H-E-R, mother, M-O-T-H-E-R, and sister, S-I-S-T-E-R. Anne was teacher, T-E-A-C-H-E-R. Then Helen learned to read by touching raised dots on a page. Helen was the first blind and deaf person to learn to read. The first person to learn to read. Who is blind and deaf. That means she can't hear. Newspapers printed stories about Helen and Anne. The two became famous. Do you remember this? That was what she used to learn how to read and write. Helen's world was now a happy place. Helen was a brilliant student, a very smart girl, and Anne was a brilliant teacher. Anne lived at their home for years. Helen learned to read lips. Helen got into Radcliffe College. She went to college. Anne went with her to help her. While still in college, Helen wrote a book about her life. After college, Helen kept writing. We are never really happy until we try to brighten the lives of others, Helen said. She helped the poor. She helped the children. So what that means is, if you want to be happy, try to brighten the lives of others. Helen also helped women win the right to vote. Anne was always at her side. The teacher was always at her side, her teacher, Anne. For years, the three lived together. Then in 1936, Anne died. Her teacher died. I think this is a picture of Helen. Anne had been Helen's teacher for almost 50 years. Helen missed her friend, but she and Polly kept working. Helen raised money for the blind. She comforted injured soldiers. Helen loved to smell flowers, to cuddle dogs, to taste good food, to feel music, and to touch art. Helen loved life. Helen changed the way the world viewed deaf and blind people. She inspired deaf and blind people to believe in themselves. She lived a full life with courage and with joy. I love that. She didn't give up just because she was deaf and blind. She helped so many people, and she lived a full life. Helen Keller is born in Tuscumbia, Alabama, on June 27, 1880. At 19 months of age, Helen Keller is stuck with a high fever. She loses her sight. This is a picture of the teacher, Anne Sullivan, arrives at Kellen's home. And this is a picture of Anne Keller enrolled in Radcliffe College. Here is a picture of Polly Thompson comes to work with Helen and Anne. And Helen Keller meets President Kennedy. He's the 12th U.S. president she meets. And in 1968, Helen Keller dies at the age of 87 on June 1st. Remember, the best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched, but just felt in the heart. This is a quote from Helen Keller.